So I want to start with this morning, and I'm going to let you sit with this for a minute. You don't need to answer, but what do you think of when you hear the word rest? What do you think of when you hear the word rest? How do I rest? It's a good start. And as you sit with that, the first thought, the first emotion, whatever comes up, now we get to some of the how of what is it about rest that's hard for you? Do you find it hard to rest? Why or why not? For those that are following the ways of Jesus and are living a life that is filled with grace and that has been invited to following and joining a greater story than just our own, one of the things that a Christian is to be marked by is rest. It's rest. Jesus actually says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now notice that he actually identifies the person by starting with weary and burdened. So when I say the Christian is to be marked by rest, that doesn't mean that those that are following the ways of Jesus are not burdened by life, are not weary, are not fearful, are not anxious. What he's saying is that those who are in those places, those that experience that, which I would offer that everyone here in this room does, he's saying, I actually have something for you different. That the weariness you're experiencing doesn't have to tell the full story. That the fear and the anxiety that you have is not the ultimate picture of reality. I want to give you something. And then he uses the image of the yoke. And what this is immediately is actually the idea, an image of working. And you would have two oxen going side by side, tilling a field. And you would have a large wood yoke. One goes over, a big arch goes over the neck of one, and then to the one on the side of it goes over. And now they're working together side by side to make movement through the field. And so he pulls up when he's talking about weariness and heavy laden and exhaustion and everything else that comes. He then goes to work. I don't know about you, but I wonder, does work ever exhaust you? Do you ever find yourself anxious because of work? Do you find yourself fearful because of the way work is or is not going? We're continuing in Monday Matters, and we're wrapping it up. We've been calling it Monday Matters because it's the idea that no matter who you are, whether you're in season or out of season with work, whether you are a stay-at-home parent or an entrepreneur, whether you're doing something that pays really well or pays really poorly, the reality is that most people will spend most of their time working. Not with their loved ones, not doing their hobbies. They will spend most of their time in their life working. And so would God not have something to say about that? Would your and I's work not actually matter to God if that's where we spent most of our time? And very quickly, it can become the thing that I do over here, but then I do my life with God in this way, through the church, through my personal devotions, through these relationships, whatever it is. But I would offer that there's nothing about God that creates any type of divide in our lives. Actually, the work of God is to bring complete integrity in and through our lives, meaning that it is solid, the foundation is strong, that there's not a gap or a crack in it, and that in every single space we inhabit, we are the same person. And it takes a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot of grace to do that. But this is the work that Jesus, and in that space, he's saying that integrous person, that who you are, can be a person that receives rest. I wonder this morning, what would it look like this next week, again, in season or out of season, no matter what you do, paid or unpaid, what would it look like? What would change if you worked from a place of rest? Now, we might think, I just need to get a good night's sleep. Once I go on that vacation, then I'll feel rested. Have you ever realized that usually you come back more tired after a vacation? Or you get a good night's sleep, but then it's the other thing that ruins it. Or you had a bad meal, whatever it is. No matter what you try to do, you never hit a full point of your body, your mind feeling rested. But what about your soul? What about who you are? Can, no matter the circumstance you find yourself in, you find yourself rested? You find yourself whole? Do you imagine if everyone entered their work that way? Do you imagine how many institutions that work off of unpaid labor, how if they were whole and integrous and coming from rest, they wouldn't actually take advantage of others? Because they wouldn't feel like they just need more? Do you imagine those that are doing social service work towards all those finding terrible experiences in their life, that every space they showed up to and is rested, how much healing that would even bring to the work that they do? If we could just be rested people, how much more does that contribute than just the numbers being produced, the things being tracked, the things being made, that you can actually be something different in and through your work? God actually shows us this. If we go all the way back to Genesis, again, we're looking at the beginning of creation and then pulling it forward into the New Testament, the second half of the Bible, post-Jesus. But we actually see in Genesis 2, thus the heavens and the earth were completed, all their vast array. But the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Very quickly, we see God working, and then immediately as a part of that work, we see him resting. Could those two things be the same thing at the same time? We then see a bunch of the people, the Israelites, following the ways of God. They find themselves under an oppressive regime, working to the bone by essentially slave drivers. Exodus 28-11, God frees them. And then he says to them, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Rest is even a part of God restoring dignity into all people. That's actually something that those who have no other way of creating more space in their life, getting out from under being paycheck to paycheck, that Sabbath rest would actually be those that could have the authority to do so. It would bless all things, even creation. Even the land would find rest. The cattle would find rest. Continues, speaking to his people again in Deuteronomy, observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, sound familiar? Nor your ox, your donkey, or any of your animals, or any foreigner residing in your town, so that your male and female servants may rest as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that in the Lord your God brought you out there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore your Lord God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. God over and over and over again is inviting his people into the rhythm of rest in which he has already established from the beginning. Do you feel rested? Do you have rhythms of rest in your life? The Sabbath rhythm, if I was to highlight one of the rhythms that I think I've enjoyed the most and kind of ways to break it down is there's 4 parts to define Sabbath. One is to stop. You stop, you cease from work, paid and unpaid, you set down the burden of productivity, and you release control. One of the hardest things it is, why it's so hard to rest, is because it's hard for you and I to stop. Like to just be still. To not move towards something or away from something. To actually let the things that I have to do drop. How much trust does that take? I would offer that rested people, first and foremost, are people of trust. You can trust the outcomes that you do and do not have control over. In times of unknown, you can be a person that's filled with trust because you're a person of rest. Secondly, actually rest. Physical and emotional, you release the illusion of control to God and know that He will keep us in the midst of unfinished work. What do you need? What is restful for you? Is it a good book? Is it a walk? Is it a nap? Is it a massage? Is it a good conversation? Is it a time of prayer? Is it whatever it is there actually something that you engage that brings rest? It might be for 30 seconds in the middle of a day. It might be for 3 days somewhere away. But is there actually something that you have that is restful to you? The next one's going to be delight. Do things that bring you joy, cultivate your imagination, and enjoy God's creation. I would offer you that there's things that you enjoy doing that God would enjoy doing with you. That there's just something you have a passion for, you have a hobby, you have things that you like when it blesses someone else. And these can be some of the simplest things imaginable. One of the things we have in our house now is a record player, and that's actually a place of both rest and delight for me. Putting it on, and you got to get up in like 8 minutes and turn it over or do whatever, but it still feels restful. But it's something that just is there that reminds me to rest. I stop. I'm not doing anything digitally, it's analog, but it actually brings rest and delight to me. Last one is worship. Remember who God is, remember who you are, and celebrate God's provision and presence. This can look so many different ways. It can be even as simple as lighting a candle before a meal. Do you imagine if people just lived from this place? One of the big organizations that I love does this, Jewish-led organization, actually, BRE Software. Has anyone ever heard of them? Shoot, this is going to backfire. 1 person, 2 people, there you go. At one point, they were pretty well known, and then Amazon just kept going. But very quickly, like early on, Amazon climbed terribly fast, and BRE Software is like second or third like largest company that actually sells goods online, a lot of software stuff. So, I mean, this is a multi-million, billion-dollar company. They don't work from Saturday night to Sunday night. I've literally ordered stuff from there, and the email response is, we're going to process this when we get back. And they still have a thriving company. They have just chosen the gift of limits. We can't just keep producing. We can't just keep meeting your demands. We can't just keep running our people ragged. We are actually going to observe rest, and we're going to invite you to do the same thing. And then, of course, when you do that, you're like, no, I want it now. I'm going to go over to Amazon, and then it comes faster. But really, is that not in us? Like, that's the thing that is the constant demand. And to see people and organizations, the math that's been done over time, they've studied people who have actually observed Sabbath for longer periods of time. And on average, they live longer almost to the day of how many days they actually observe Sabbath throughout their life. Like, there is something built into us, and I would offer to you that it's actually God that is inviting us to rest with Him. One of the challenges, Tim Keller puts it this way, is that we have idols in our life. And he says, an idol has such a controlling position in your heart that you can spend most of your passion and energy, your emotional and financial resources on it without a second thought. It can be a family and children, or a career in making money, or achievement in critical acclaim, or saving face and social standing. It can be a romantic relationship, peer approval, competence and skills, secure and comfortable circumstances, your beauty or your brains, a great political or social cause, your morality and virtue, or even success in the Christian ministry. An idol is whatever you look at and say, in your heart of hearts, if I have that, Then I'll feel my life has meaning. Then I'll know I have value. Then I'll feel significant and secure. Is work, your job, something that has become an idol in any way? That it's the place in which you are finding most meaning, that you are willing to cut corners for it, that you're willing to burn at both ends of the candle, that you actually underproduce and you underfunction because you're not actually engaging it fully, because you're not coming from rest. Work very quickly can become the thing that actually says, I can live out all of my limits in this place, and I can miss the rest and the place that God is actually inviting me to live from. See, Sabbath is not the thing that we get at the end of a good work week. Our good work week is the place in which we live from a Sabbath. Your work week is better because you come out rested. Now, when I say Sabbath, a 24-hour period, sundown to sun up, or sundown to sundown, and you do these things, that some of you have that rhythm built in. You've tried it on before. Some of you, that feels so far away. Can you just start with an hour of rest in your week? Can you shut your phone off and put it in another room? Can you do a practice that gives you rest and delight? Like, start somewhere. Like, do you have something in your week that can help find any of these rhythms that pull you away from you being constantly demanded of? And yes, I'm even talking to parents. There are ways, and I know it's hard because we have those little tiny humans also, but like, there have to be ways in which the only thing you're not defined by is by being a parent. And it is so hard. It is so hard. But you have to find rest. God is inviting you to live a life of rest. And so I'm going to invite the worship team up, and actually our communion ushers as I close out here with just a couple quotes in one passage. Wayne Mueller puts it this way: if we do not allow for a rhythm of rest in our overly busy lives, illness becomes our Sabbath. Our pneumonia, our cancer, our heart attack, our accidents create Sabbath for us. See, it's going to come either way. But what you don't want is it to be something that's catastrophic. You want to have control of what Sabbath looks like, not it have control over you. It will come, it will hit, but you can actually step into it. This is the same thing Augustine says, and note in his Confessions. He says about God, you have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. There is something that we are intended to live by and live from that is not our own selves, and it's not the things that only we can do with our hands. And I would offer that your work is one of the greatest places that you can demonstrate rest. Just imagine with me for a second. Your work this next week. Because if you're catching on, rest isn't just about, 8 hours of sleep and feeling like you got energy. It's being someone who lives from a place of trust. That I don't have to hold all things up. It's someone who can be generous with the hours that they put into work and the money that they make from it. They can be generous with your standing inside of a company, and you don't have to cut corners to beat someone else out. It's the people that when something goes wrong at work, you can pause and not have to react to it, but you can actually respond to it, and you can help people navigate it through. That when something isn't going your way, you can remain kind and connected to them. You imagine workplaces just filled with these rare human beings doing this stuff? See, it's the rest that you and I are called to in our work that our offer is going to give us the greatest work imaginable. It's not just the new hacks and the self-help books and how to master your schedule and trust me, I've done all the things. I was doing espressos at 2 p.m. with a 20-minute nap to then get to my writing thing. I've tried all this stuff, so I get it. I want to perfect work, but it's impossible because then you can just drain yourself trying to perfect work. And what if you just imagine your work this next week from a place of rest, and what would it take from that? Lester DeCoster says, work is the form in which we make ourselves useful to others. When you are exhausted, at the end of your rope, working yourself to your bone, guess who's not benefiting from your work? Others. I would offer even you. This is one of the greatest demonstrations of what it means to be Christian.